Welcome back to These Are Raf Times, the series of videos on Rafchild Records YouTube channel where I, Raf, talk about all kinds of things that are connected with the label. And today I want to talk about what I want to achieve with the label. And the first time I talked about how I ended up with a record label, and then I talked a bit about what happens from there on, how I try to actually sell records. And today I want to talk a bit more openly about what I want to achieve and why I think that I have something to contribute to the whole music scene, heavy metal scene, with what I'm doing. So yeah, let's get into that. So cheers. All right. So I've already told the tale of how I ended up with a record label sort of by accident. And by accident is true as far as it goes, but obviously I had thought about these kinds of things, like what record labels do, if I should maybe do that, that kind of thing. I thought about that before. Actually, the Facebook page that I had for the label, I opened up maybe 2 years before I actually started the label. So there was this idea, it just, didn't actually come to fruition before last year in January, February. So now let's look into what the hell I actually want to achieve and why I think it's necessary to have another record label. Because obviously I'm not an artist. I'm not good at making music. I'm not good at drawing cover artworks or anything like that. But I still feel that there have to be people in the music scene, in the metal scene, that do other kinds of things, help booking tours, help organizing stuff, organize shows, actually produce and market and sell records and make sure these things get into the hands of those people who really want to appreciate it. And the fact actually is that a lot of bands don't like to do that. Obviously nowadays you can be a completely self-sufficient band and do everything yourself and be successful with that. My friends from A Sound of Thunder are extremely successful for a band that handles everything themselves. That's amazing, and I love that, and I love those guys. But there's also bands who don't want to deal with all this stuff because it takes a lot of energy and sometimes even skills that you maybe don't have as a band because you're good at writing music and that's it. So I feel like there is a need for people like me in that respect. Also, when you look at what I've done so far, I try to give bands a voice or a platform to get their music out, and I help with that are, at least I hope so, a bit unique. There's a lot of bands out there that stick to one style and are very, very easily described. It's like, you sound like Swedish fast melodic metal of the 2000s. There's a lot of bands, and I love a lot of them, but in the end, they all sound like Enforcer with slight variations, which is fine. It's just like I try to look into more unique bands and into actually active bands, maybe on the younger side as bands, because yes, there is that Wotan album, and Wotan is an amazing band that has been around for almost 30 years at this point. But, it's a new album, and I still believe that they have a great future with more music. Because one of the things that I find problematic with the music scene nowadays, with the heavy metal scene, especially the heavy metal underground scene, is the very, very heavy emphasis on the 80s and re-releases. And that's something I have a lot of strong opinions on, and I'll just have to fortify myself a bit more before I get into that. Better, stronger. Okay, so first of all, I like a lot of these 80s metal bands that released like 2 demos back in the day and never made it. I like a lot of those bands. I have a lot of those records at home, and I obviously go to Keep It True every year to celebrate those bands with their one show after 40 years and their first show in Europe. And it's always fun. I like it a lot. So more power to them. Seriously. But, and now comes the but. The problem that I see is that most of those bands that do a reunion or do just for one show and do re-releases, labels that do re-releases for their old stuff, they don't create new music. There's a few exceptions where a reunion after that time led to great new music. Satan would be one of those bands, definitely. The Psychotic Waltz reunion gave us an amazing album. Even the Thirth Angle reunion gave us a good album. So those examples are out there, but a lot of bands, they play one show. Maybe they even release a new album, but it's not really good. For example, I don't know, Militia from Texas, they played a really cool show at Keep It True. And the re-release of their old demos is cool. But in the end, even though they made a new album, which is not very good and doesn't sound very good, even though they made that, that's where it ended. And the problem that I see is that right now we have the chance to see all these bands. And of course, it's great to see those bands and see them finally getting the recognition that they never got back in the day. But it comes with a price, and the price is that young bands, new bands, have it incredibly difficult in our scene to actually get noticed, because not every time, but a lot of times it's like people listen to it, it's like, yeah, that's actually pretty cool, but I have this amazing 80s US metal demo and it's so much better. And it really doesn't sound that much better. It really isn't better. It maybe has one amazing song on it. For example, when you look at the old Enchanter album, of course, Thor is an absolute smasher of a song. That's true. But a lot of stuff that gets released right now is at least that good or better. And the band will not get the attention. It will be difficult to appear on festivals, because what sells right now as bands on festivals, what sells out billings is old bands. It's not new bands. And of course, there's always a bunch of younger bands in there on those festival billings. But is that enough? And my fear is that in a couple of years, those old bands will no longer be there. People will be too old to make music or actually die. And it's terrible, but it's something we have to face. Give it another 10 years and most of those bands won't be there anymore. Well, give it another 20 or 30 years and our planet won't be here anymore because of climate change, but that's a different thing. So, yeah, we have this problem that there is very little chance for younger bands to actually grow as artists, grow the experience, gather the experience of playing on festivals, gather the experience of interacting as a more successful band, because success is something you need to grow into, you need to learn. If you become successful immediately, probably you're not going to be able to handle that if you're a young artist. So growing up as a band, gathering the experience, releasing albums, playing shows on larger and larger stages, that's something that gets more and more difficult in the current situation where everyone is looking backwards and focusing so much on those re-releases. And I get it. A lot of our metal scene right now is old. like the fans are older, like in their mid-30s to mid-50s. So it's also a nostalgia kick. You can get back and like listen to this amazing demo that you had as a tape, a copy tape from a copy tape from a copy tape back when you were 15. So it gives you that feeling again of being 15. But yeah, where's it gonna go in, I don't know, 10 years? And this is where I want to step in. It's something I tried to do with the 3 editions of Riddle of Steel that we did so far. It's something I also try to do with the label, and my general outlook is to look at young, promising bands where I think they have something unique, they have the chance to become big, or at least bigger, and give them a platform to do that, and use my very, very limited influence to tell people about it, and spread the word, spread the good news about these bands, and hope and help that they can grow into the, you know, mid-level to gigantic stars of our scene in the future, because we need new blood in there. We also need to think about how to reach a younger audience, because also, like, the typical audience of festivals that I go to is also getting older and older and older. And there's fewer and fewer younger people coming, and it's very difficult, apparently, for us as a metal scene. I have problems with that thing. I'll probably make a video about what I really think is the metal scene and what it isn't, and why I have my issues with that. But right now, I'll just use it as a loose term. So yes, there's fewer and fewer people coming into it. We can't reach them anymore because we are very, very set in our ways. We very much focus on a couple of platforms. Right now, that's mostly Facebook, because we're old people and young people don't use Facebook. So how do we reach those people? How do we actually get younger people into our scene to make sure it will be an active scene in 10 years? How do we do that? It's something I think about a lot. And it's something I want to try out and work on with the label, to actually keep metal an active genre, a vibrant, living, active scene. It's, as I said, it's something I think about a lot. So that's why I try and will probably not do, probably not. You never know, maybe something really important comes up, but I'll try not to do re-releases or first-time releases of demo compilations and stuff like that from way back, because A, there's labels who do that. They do a great job. There's Dive Bomb Records. There's all these like labels that do exactly that, and that's fine. And also because I think that the way forward is to look at young bands and look at active bands. I mean, young is relative. I mean, bands like Mega Colossus have been out for 10 years, have been active for over 10 years at this point. Even A Sound of Thunder is like old, like 10 years old at this point. But you know, give those bands a chance to actually grow, do something, and become bigger, and actually form the scene in the future. It's something I really want to do, is to make sure metal stays the way I like it, and do that in an active way by encouraging the things that I really like, and not by standing around and behaving super elitist and telling people they're not metal enough or whatever. That's, the gatekeeping is a huge issue. Maybe I'll talk about it in the future as well. I want to do it proactively. I want to be an active part and form the future of heavy metal by encouraging and supporting what I really like. And it's probably, I mean, it sounds really, it sounds like a lot, and like super arrogant when I say I want to, you know, not change heavy metal, but I want to guide it or make sure it stays active and goes in a way that I like. It sounds super ambitious, and I'll probably regret saying it in the future, but yeah, that's what I want, and that's why I choose bands and to work with bands that I feel have something unique that I want to support. And those are sometimes bands that don't sell that well. That's like the other part. It's like some of that is not super successful. It's a bit of a gamble, but I'm proud of every record I've released so far, no matter how well it's sold or whatever. I believe those are bands that have something unique to put into our scene, and I'll stand by that. So yeah, that's my rather unstructured rambling on why I am doing this right now. It's certainly not for money, I can tell you that. And it's really because heavy metal has given me so much, and I want to, give back, or at least be an active part in it. So that's what I wanted to say today. All right, I'll talk to you really soon about something else. If you have questions, specific ideas, what you want me to talk about, leave them in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's something that will help me. And I hope like next week or so, we'll have a new music video coming up, like a new lyrics video or something, because this should not just be me talking all the time. It should also still be like a channel where I promote the music. So that's something I'm looking forward to, and I hope you all have, a great weekend. And yeah, I'll talk to you real soon. Cheers.